Brother, 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 there's far too many of you dying. You know we've got to find to bring some loving here today. Yeah. Father, Father, we don't need to escalate. Hi, I'm Harold Bell, and this is the Legends of Inside Sports and the Way We Were. I'm going to make this segment real short. First, I want to thank the principal and staff at Robert Gray Elementary School in Prince George's County for inviting me to speak to their 5th and 6th graders. The kids were fantastic. I was walking on cloud 9 when my wife Hattie and I left the school. They could not believe that I was a friend of Muhammad Ali and I was 80 years old. One little girl asked me, how was I 80 years old and was standing there talking to them? And I told them peace of mind and to always tell the truth. That's the only way you can have peace of mind. And young folks like them keep me young. And that's what it's all about. You know, elementary school children have always been my favorite people. 2 weeks ago, my friend Frank Jones brought to my attention that he called and asked, he said, do you know a Dallas, Texas sportscaster by the name of Dale Hansen? And I said, no, Frank, I never heard of him. Well, he said, stand by. I'm going to mail you a link to one of his commentaries. The commentary was titled White Privilege, and once I viewed the video, I was stunned by the content. I decided to run it again to see if I heard Mr. Hansen correctly. But this time, I want you to listen along with me. Listen to Dale Hansen in White Privilege.
This online software is revolutionizing the way businesses are making sales. Having to match.
Been a lot of criticism of the Arizona Cardinals hiring Cliff Kingsbury as their new coach. Even my guys Mike and Jonah have been questioning that hire. But Kingsbury fits all the criteria to be a head coach in the NFL. He's an offensive genius, he's young, and he's white. And not necessarily in that order. There have been 6 new coaches hired so far, all white, and 2 coaches of color they are replacing. Stephen Wilkes, fired in Arizona after just 1 year. Vance Joseph in Denver after just 2. But Cowboys coach Jason Garrett is in his 9th year, apparently because he wins so much. A lot of people don't understand how Kingsbury can have a losing record at Texas Tech, no NFL experience, and get one of the 32 NFL jobs. But getting fired at Tech doesn't eliminate him from moving up, at least it doesn't to me. I've had 11 jobs in my life, been fired from 8 of them, and moved up every time. And I am arrogant enough to tell you, I think Channel 8 was right to give me another chance. But I am the product of white privilege in America, and I've never denied that I wasn't either. If they made a poster, my picture should be on it. Getting fired at one place and getting another chance isn't the problem. But young, talented coaches of color not getting the chance, that's a huge problem. The covert racism of the NFL ownership group was so bad, the NFL had to make a rule so that minority coaches could at least get an interview. Cowboys secondary coach Chris Richard has been interviewed, and there are reports saying he might get the Miami job. After what he's done with this Cowboys defense, how could he not? Unless it is true, what black parents have been telling their children for decades now, you have to be twice as good to go half as far. I dream of the day when those parents are wrong, because now they're not.
Okay, that was Dale Hansen in Dallas, Texas, on his take on white privilege. You know, I first became aware of white privilege. I must have been 17 years old as a caddy at Burning Tree Golf Course. Burning Tree was located in a suburb of D.C., Bethesda, Maryland. It was a golf course for the white, rich, and powerful. No one of color was allowed to be a member, including their white wives. But Mondays were a different story. Black caddies were allowed to play on the course. I finally figured out why. Most of the caddies were good golfers, and the members would often pick their brains to improve their games. Burning Tree gave me Petey Green and Richard Milhouse Nixon, who became my mentors in the game called life. Petey was a caddy like me, and Nixon was the Vice President of the United States of America. I caddied for Nixon. Petey would later become a legendary radio and television talk show host and give me 5 minutes to talk sports on his Sunday radio show. Nixon would later become President of the United States of America. And guess what? He would honor me with a presidential appointment in 1969. I knew absolutely nothing about politics and politicians. That was my introduction to white privilege. The only reason I was stunned by the commentary of Dale Hansen was because I have never heard a white man admit he was the benefactor of white privilege. Mr. Hansen was only saying what I've been saying on the airwaves, on my blogs, and in print for the past 47 years. But I was called an advocate and a troublemaker. Mr. Hansen is now hailed as a hero and the best thing in sports media since sliced bread, and I concur. He has been hailed on national television and been seen on the Ellen DeGeneres Show, on CNN, and several other national shows. I can't even get on local podcasts. You know, it took courage for Mr. Hansen to admit that there was such a thing as white privilege. It has been hard for white folks on a whole to admit that racism is the fabric of America. Every time a person of color mentions racism to someone who is benefited from white privilege, the first thing out of their mouths is, "Why are you playing the race card? Why don't you get over it?" It's hard to get over making half the salary of a white man in 2019. In the black community, there's off the wall and off the charts unemployment. Banks are still redlining us. There's a lack of housing and health care. The Obama plan is facing genocide. Overt police brutality is nationwide. Double standards in the criminal justice system, where there continues to be justice and just us. For example, the Chicago Police Department, a grand jury who has a history of turning a blind eye to bad police shootings of black folks for decades. Now they want to indict umpire actor Jussie Smollett on 16 felony counts to include hate crime for lying. Are you kidding me? Who have been bigger lies than the Chicago Police Department? This brother has hurt no one but himself. And yes, he has a problem. But his career is over. Why is it that Bill Cosby, who has a problem also, and R. Kelly, who has a problem also, why are they the only ones serving time and on trial, fighting for their lives, while hundreds of Catholic priests and Harvey Weinstein are given a get-out-of-jail pass? I can't wait to see Dale Hansen's take on this blatant use of white privilege. When I read Mr. Hansen's commentary on white privilege, I wrote him and mailed him a copy of my book titled My Walk Through American Sports History with Champs and Chumps. On Monday, March 11th, I will be at Gold's Gym located at 1723 Ritchie Road in Capitol Heights, Maryland from 12 noon until 3 p.m. for a book signing. But after I had sent Mr. Hansen this copy of my book, this was the telephone response that I received from him. Listen up.
I lost your phone number when you called the other day, and I finally had to track through your notes, and I finally found this here. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you, but your stuff is fantastic to read about, and everything you've done is makes what my little bit of peeling off the cover of white privilege, as you say, seem rather insignificant. But I thank you for sharing this with me, and hope this message gets to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Now, in case you missed what Dale Hansen said to me just now by telephone, he said, Harold, this is Dale Hansen in Dallas. I lost your telephone number when you called the other day, but I finally had to track it through my notes, and I finally found it here. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you, but your stuff is fantastic to read. About everything and everything you've done makes my little bit look like a peeling off the cover of white privilege, as you say, seem rather insignificant. But I thank you for sharing this with me, and I hope this message gets to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I thank Dale Hansen for being a breath of fresh air in the media. I thank you, sir. Well, that's going to be it for the Legends of Inside Sports and the way we were. And once again, every black face you see is not your brother, and every white face is not your enemy. Until next time, I'm Harold Bell, and you can color me gone. Don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so you can see what's going on. What's going on? Yeah, what's going on?